every black children, and every Sunday, his church is packed to capacity. I'm going to say it again. This is a black male who sodomizes and rapes little black boys. Everybody in this room and every other room around this country is aware that this is what he does. Are y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
And what has occurred? I'm going to say it again. This is not speculation. The young males that he molested have come out. He didn't even bother to deny it. He said, I'm not a perfect man. He didn't even bother to deny it. You would think at least to just say that you were another male, a man would say, no, I'm not no homosexual. No, he don't even go that far. Right. So he don't make it. So that means that as a race of people, I want you to understand what this means and for our survival. This is the condition we are in as a race of people. Let me first take you back. In 1985, if we heard that a dude that was an adult was trying to talk to a young girl, 12 or 13, where I came from the Southeast, the dudes who come out the house, what, you trying to holler at that somebody's cousin or something? You're going to get a beat down at the very least. You probably going to get stabbed, you might get shot. If she's somebody's cousin or sister, you're going to get shot. It's just, you're not going, matter of fact, when I grew up, if you called a woman, excuse my language, I just want to use the word for you, if you called her a bitch, when I was growing up, a black girl, what that meant, you ain't have to ask. As soon as we heard the word come out of dude's mouth, you'd be like, oh, it's going to be a fight this evening. Because it was guaranteed. She was going to tell her brothers, her uncles, if she ain't had no brothers or uncles, she would tell some dudes and they'd be like, he said, what? Oh, nah, that ain't. And then some dudes, nah, what you saying, it's going to be a fight. Because there was a general consensus that to be a black man, your job was to protect and defend black women and children. Nobody had to tell you that. So if you saw it happen, it would, someone move and you say, nah, this is not, and then you say, something got to be done.
Obligated.
Now, you're obligated to do something, even if you didn't want to get involved because you were a man. Nobody can abuse black children. If we heard somebody molested a child back then, they killed him. I mean, I have a cousin. They was living in Hampton, Virginia. White boy moved in the neighborhood. Started paying this little 13-year-old girl to messing with her. When they found out, a lot of the folks went over there. That dude died. Mysterious death. It was a good thing for the cracker though. But nobody did no time, and I was just like, you ain't gonna come around messing over our daughters. And if you was black or white, you got that same sentence.
Right.
I want you to listen to me again, because I want you to see what happens with a race of people. How can we be talking about Pan-African, black power, black power? Stop. Black power what? There's a preacher who routinely rapes little boys. He's not hiding. The boys came out and told us, these are black males, this is what he did to us when we were young boys. More than one of them, he molested us like this. One of them said, I can't get the smell of that man off me. At night when I go to sleep, I can't get the smell of him off me. He molests our sons. And the response from the Pan-African black nationalist community, again, the only groups that are saying this is something that we got to deal with is Warner Horizon. So what has that led to? Right now, it's going to sound shocking to people. People don't know what's really going on the ground. We know, oh, I got the knowledge, I got this. What's happening? The pedophiles and the homosexuals are so organized, we got to deal with these folks in the street. They're kicking in people's doors. I mean, it's okay. I mean, both doors will go both ways. I want you to understand how aggressive this is. This is how aggressive these individuals are. Their position is this. This is the last group. We get rid of Warner Horizon. We can rape all the black children we want. Ain't nobody going to do nothing. And I want you to just stop and think for a minute. When you talk about sexual abuse in the black community, or homosexuality in our community, spreading like wildfire, who do you hear addressing it and fighting it? Nobody. You know why? Nobody wants to take that fight. That's why we understood, when we realized the damage it was, we said we got to take this fight. Here's the problem. We fighting in the air, we also got to fight on the ground.
That's right.
Because those that say that they care about their race and they Pan-Africans and they RBG, they saying that, then you say, what's your platform? F these crackers. Yeah, you're right, F these crackers. What's your platform? But what happens is this. I'm not blaming people. The problem is, and this is what we're seeing today. I'm telling you, I'm not making a mistake. I'm gonna play things for you see, but I didn't know it was this bad. This is what's happened. Last time we came, I'm not gonna say no names. I'm not gonna say no names, but I'm gonna tell you. Last time we came, y'all saw how many people was here then. I'm telling you a fact. People sabotaged it like you wouldn't believe. It'd have been at least 200 people in here. People, nah, don't come to this event. All this. Why? Because we got pockets of homosexuals and people defending the homosexuals and lesbians in the so-called Pan-African community, and those that support that, and those that get paid to support that, and literally they use every means possible to prevent people from getting the message. Because once you get the message, I'm gonna just be real. Once you get the message I give you, you don't have no question about what needs to be done. You know, and so then you start acting accordingly. So their thing is, well, we just make sure nobody hears the message. So they more organized. See, like I said, I just found out 2 days ago what they were able to do here now. So we know that they did it the first time, but this is even deeper. What's the problem with that? I just want people to hear. When your enemy changes his approach to your destruction, if you don't adjust, you get destroyed. So before the cracker just came straight forward direct, he came right at us. You kind of know, that's the white, that's my enemy calling me the N-word, blah, blah, blah. He's done something different now. It's very different. It looks different and it feels different. But we still traditional, doing the same things and saying the same things we did yesterday, which means we ineffective. So while the war is waging, they just decimating our forces, and we don't even recognize that it's a war. So let me ask my brother, do we get the connection? Are we good?
Yeah, I need you to try to make sure we're good.
Okay. What we gonna do now? Because I just wanted to give people some, I want people to understand. We're fighting this war. And I need you to understand. So I'm gonna show you, so you're gonna know, I can show you that and I can tell you that this is the truth. I gotta say this. I'm one of the few warlords you got left. I'm telling you. It ain't about the talk. The lectures are good. We have to do this so you understand why we fight. But this ain't our fight. We got to save our race. There's a lot of crackers out there and they don't like us. We don't like them. But before we can deal with them, we got a lot of race traders amongst our people. Yes, we got a lot of people that are causing problems in house. First, we got to deal with that. Then once we deal with that, then it's kind of easy to realize what we got to do. It's not going to be an easy fight. But guess what? We have African people on the African continent. We have African people in the islands. We got African people in America that want to do something now. That time is here, but people don't know what to do. We figured it out. What is the pulse that's in the center of our racial survival? Right now, I'm telling you, I've been around the world. Everywhere you go, when you say sexual abuse of children, the women freeze. Because they've been through it. Absolutely. Listen, I'm talking about Africa. I haven't been to the islands. When I talk to brothers and sisters from the islands, that's how I started doing this. I had a good friend from Jamaica who got molested when she was in Jamaica. She told me a story when I was 15 that never left me. I'm thinking there's one dude around that's doing that. I didn't know that it was a pervasive problem that has gotten even worse since that time. Now I say 75% of the women that I've met, black women, in my life have told me, because I'm open to hear it, somebody sexually abused me. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Well, it's great that we're getting awareness out there, but that's not how you fix a problem like that. Because once we did the research, what we found is what? These individuals that molest children, they did a study, Department of Justice, statistics. Y'all ready? I'm gonna ask y'all to guess this. They studied over 500 pedophiles and got them to write down each time they molested a child. What was the average number of times, y'all think each of these five, the average number that they molested a child? How many times? 7. How much you say? 7, not high enough. Keep going. He said 10. Come on. 30. Y'all don't want that now. Like, give me some. Come on, talk to me now.
We're talking about over a day, a week.
No, over their life. as long as they was in jail when they was arrested.
300.
Say it again? 365.
I mean, 365 different children.
They just said acts. So it could be the same child sometimes, but at 365 times,
Still enough.
I tell you what, I got another. I got the Washington Post article. I got the article. One white male wrote down his 10,000 acts of sexual abuse, 10,000 individuals that he molested. I want you to understand, these folks are not like us. Some of us say, I had a wild past. We think our past is wild. But it's different from being a brother that's predatory to try to holler at sisters and talk them into something. That's different than somebody who preys on an innocent individual who doesn't know what's happening to them and gets a thrill out of defilement. So they go do it here and it's done. 5 minutes. Just take 5 minutes, they mess with it and it's done. Then they go over here and it's done. Some of them, they got more time and they do even worse stuff. And they do this every day, all day. This is what they do. So when you eliminate a pedophile from your community, you don't understand what you're doing. You're saving the souls for all the little girls that are going around that have no idea that a man would do this. All the little boys that are running around who one day going to be terrorizing your son if you don't prevent him from going through what he's about to go through because you haven't dealt with this pedophile. And this is what we're facing now. And because of it, these homosexuals and pedophiles, and I'm just telling you this for a reason. I'm not asking for help. I'm just telling you so you can understand what people really dealing with. We got the best message on the market, period, for our people. When we do it, you'll see it. It's coming right now. It's coming. We got the best message. Is it on? All right, let me see this way. This. Okay. Y'all good? Good. I'm telling you, we got the best message for our people on the market. At the same time that I say that, you see what happens here. Now I want you to ask yourself a question when you see this today. Because you're going to see it. I ain't just going to tell you what we can do. You're going to see it for yourself. I want you to ask me, is there any black person in the world that should not have this message that you're going to get here today? Is there any one of us that won't benefit from this? And then when you say no, because I'm going to predict your answer no, then I want you to ask yourself the question, how is it then that with the homosexuals and homosexuality being pushed on our people from every different direction, and genocide, the death of our race, interracial marriage, interracial this, what about black men and women coming together as a group to build a nation? That's never pushed. With all of this happening, why is it that you do not see and hear this message in every home in America? And why is it that the folks that are on the ground saying we fighting for black people, why haven't they got on this particular effort? Because if you save the children from this type of abuse, if they get on with that, we save a whole generation from what you're about to see here. So we're going to go into this. Y'all all right? All right. All right, let me see. We got this in here. We're going to start up in one moment. And I want to do, can we give Queen Jasira another round of applause? Is that a bad sister or what? That's my sister there. Let me see. That's the queen. Not a queen, that's the queen.
That's right.
All right, let me see. That's right in there.
Hey, hit those lights for me.
Go without the light. First thing I'm going to do, since I told you about it, and I said I'll let you hear it, I just want you to hear this for a second. Because I want you to hear Remember I told you there was a song? And these are the RBG now, but they infiltrated the black Pan-African community and promoting homosexuality. So before we go into the discussion about genocide, I just want you to hear it so you can hear what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, what we have is another situation. It doesn't have, we need a tone message here to come through the sound right. So what we're gonna have to do, this is tough. Let me see. Without that connection. I gotta do this without the sound. This is gonna be rough. Give me one moment, I'm sorry, brother. And I really, yeah, that's what we got. That's the only other thing we can do. We're gonna make it work one way or the other. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the mic. Let's see what we can The reason I'm playing this is about Mike Brown. Now listen, was Mike Brown homosexual?
No.
Was Mike Brown lesbian?
Is he transgender?
Was he transgender?
No. Cross-dressing.
He's a black man. He got shot by the police, right?
Right.
So then, how is it that there should be a song dedicated to fighting for Mike Brown, but talking about I'm dedicating this to my lesbian and transgender? What do lesbians and transgender have to do with Mike Brown? The lesbians and the homosexuals have invaded the Pan-African community, and the idea is to come in under the guise of some issue that we care about and turn our direction and what. So I'm gonna play that one part again, and then we're gonna start on that.
Lesbian and transgender sisters that I gun. I speak for my lesbian and transgender sisters that ain't got one. Racism ain't dead, niggas just dead. My Ferguson commission a bunch of real niggas. We ain't scared of death, motherfucker. Come and kill it like the little brothers.
Yeah. He's gangster, right? He gangster RBG. Why is he talking about transgender?
That's tough call. He's not gangster at all.
No, he's not.
Well, that's what he's presenting.
Right.
So I want you to hear what I'm saying. A black man gets murdered by police. It wasn't a homosexual that got murdered. And he didn't get murdered because he was gay. Because he wasn't gay. So he wasn't promoting that. And if he was in, he probably wouldn't have liked it. Like most brothers, they ain't with that. So how does something that's supposed to be about him getting murdered get turned to something that's promoting homosexuality and defending it?
He promoted it?
Well, he said, see, understand, if we ain't talking about that, we talking about the brother getting killed and the brother's heterosexual, then we talking about a man who could have been somebody's father and somebody's husband. How does that issue get turned away from what it is under the guise of RBG, Black Power, to something about transgenders? You got to understand how this thing operates. We going in this way, they got a different agenda. So they come in on this side, and we like, yeah, and before you know it, now your child's going into this. Most black people who are sane don't agree with this. So if we don't agree with it, why is it being promoted? Under the guise of Pan-Africanism, which is about black liberation. Everybody understand the point I'm making? Now let's go into this genocide discussion. Because this is very important. In fact, most important discussion that we can have during this current time. Thank you. Please forgive us for the difficulty. But one thing I learned of Warner Horizon, nothing comes easy that's worth having. So we're going to plow through this. Can we hit the lights for me, please? All right, let's go into this. What is genocide? We're going to start right at the beginning. Let's talk about what exactly we're talking about. Do we remember the Bush Brown massacre that they call Hurricane Katrina?
Yeah.
Where they blew up levees and watched them kill thousands of our people. What was that about? The whites had decided now just turn it down until I get back up. And then when they turn it up, clip back up, and we'll turn it up. Okay, so now, this was a test run. They kidnapped us from Africa, brought us here, and enslaved it. So they've done that already. I'm sorry.
No, you don't mind.
I'll talk about it while I come back up. When they blew those levees up in New Orleans, this is the reality. They enslaved us once. They needed our human resource. We were agricultural people. They brought us here to build their country. Then they went to Africa, seized the Africans for its resources. We are now in a stage that's very different. They no longer want to exploit us because they don't need us. They got machines. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second, brother. Okay, get right back up. Because we gonna, after this, we're going all the way in. But they say anything that can happen will happen, right? It's back up? All right, coming back up. Give me a second. All right. Let's get it high. Yeah, we're gonna go with it. We're gonna go with it just like that. So, now they've decided internationally they're gonna kill black people. It's no longer about exploitation, no longer about slavery. The bottom line, we're getting rid of it because we're a threat to them. So, this was an attempt at that time to test run and say, if we kill a large number of black people, what is the impact going to be? Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
And this is what they did. They blew up the levees, they stood back, and they showed the world internationally all these black people getting murdered. And they said, let's see how the world responds. This is what they learned from it. The world is fine with black people being killed, except if it's obvious that they're doing it, people become sympathetic because in their minds they go, wow, black folk really are getting in bad shape. And if they can do it to them, then They can do it to us. So then they start saying, yeah, these whites are bad. So they say, okay, we can kill large numbers of black people. We just can't show that that's exactly what we're doing because the world is not ready to take that. Y'all with me?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about the definition of what genocide is. And this, what we're doing today, is a combination of different things. We have different lectures up here. The genocide lecture has a lot more extensive information, and I'm pulling from different discussions that we had. So if you get it, it won't be exactly this, it'll be more stuff. And then we have other videos where this comes from. But I want to do a discussion today that's relevant to this city. And when we finish, if you still got enough energy in you, we tailored it for the last part, but I want to ask you, I'm not going to come into your house and tell you what I want to tell you. I'm going to come first, show you what we do. Then ask you, do you want to hear what we think should happen here based on what's happening with Brother Mike Brown, okay? Is that fair? So we're going to show you our assessment of our world condition. Then you tell us if you want to hear what we have to say about this particular situation. First of all, what is genocide? When it was created? It was created after Nazi Germany, when the white so-called Jews, we call them small hats, the Ashkenazis were murdered, what they call the Holocaust. And they said these are things that we should not happen. So they called together a conference, and they put together what they call the articles of this convention, which were the definition of genocide. Genocide means any of the following acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. So in other words, if you intend to kill, it doesn't mean that you have to kill every member. If a group of people are agricultural and they rely on agriculture to survive, if you kill all the farmers, what's going to happen?
You're gonna die off.
Why?
That's what
Because they can't eat. They can't eat because you killed off all the people that made any food, and that's what they rely on. So by definition, if you kill off a large group of that group, it doesn't have to be the whole group. By definition, it's genocide. And here are the 5 different things that you can do. Killing members of the group, not all of the group. If you kill specific members of the group, even by their definition, that is genocide. Causing serious bodily harm or mental harm to members of the group. So if you intentionally miseducate them, teach them things that are patently false, that they should date outside their race, and then that's the healthiest thing they can do, even though you know that that would dilute their genetic makeup and destroy their race. If you teach them to do that, by definition, you're doing mental harm to them. It's genocide. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. If you say, I'm not going to touch one member of the group, however, their survival comes from that lake right there. I'm going to poison the lake. You don't have to hurt one person. If you poison that lake and people die because you poison that lake, you committed genocide by their definition. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. So if you count up how many babies they have per woman, and anything you do where the intention is to prevent them from having as many children. So if you put in an organization, don't have children until you're 30. If you're doing that with the intention they're going to have less babies, by definition it's genocide. If you say, hey, there's nothing wrong with 2 women being together, by definition it's genocide. If you lock up all the men in the time when they will have most children, put them with other dudes where they can't have children, by definition, if that's your intent, it's genocide. Now with it?
Yes, sir.
Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. If you go in and take these people's children, who are the individuals who the culture is poured into to keep the race going, if you take them out and give them to another group, by their definition, it's what?
Genocide.
Yes. All right. So, briefly, just so we can get a historical background. 500 years ago, 1492, there were over 10 million people in North and South America, red men and red women. Right here where we are right now, over 10 million of them. At this very moment, I bet most people in this room have never seen one full-blooded Native American. Do you know why? They were exterminated through a process called genocide. Let's talk about this process called genocide. Columbus came, but they tell us he came in 1492 and they tell the nice story. They don't tell us what really happened when he came. Do you know what happened when Columbus came to America? Do you know what they did to these red people? First thing they did was told them to go get all the gold you had. And when they ran out of gold, they start catching them, cutting their hands off because they didn't bring gold. When they said, we're giving you all the gold that we have, the next thing they did, these were what they called gifts. Now, these are the accounts by Bartholomew de las Casas, who was a European, a white boy, Catholic priest who was over here. He was documenting what he was watching with his own 2 eyes, Columbus and his crew do to the red people in the Western Hemisphere. These were called gibbets, big wooden contraptions that they made. They would take 13 Native Americans at a time and hang them on these gibbets. But this is the part. Now you say, okay, those are mass lynching. This is what the white boy was saying he was watching. But then Columbus, people don't realize, during Europe, during that time, the 1400s, it was right out of what they call the Dark Ages. You should have called it the Light Ages, the White Ages, because they was all white. They were cannibals. So they would fry them under the fire and then they would eat the bodies. And then, when any of them would resist, or if they couldn't bring them more gold, they brought in these dogs that had been trained in Europe to disembowel, meaning to eat through the stomach and kill people. And they were trained to do that. And they would go get the babies to feed the dogs and bang the babies' heads up against the wood or the trees till the blood came out, and then feed them to the dogs. Now this is not our research. This is the whites who were there witnessing what they did. This is what they said that they saw. Then they would take them and do what they call impaling. They would take Native Americans, peaceful people, have these metal spikes, sift them down through their anus, through their head. And you would think that if you do that to somebody that they die immediately. Nah, a person can live a day or so like that. Don't ask me how, but this is the kind of, they wasn't just killing them. This is the kind of stuff, when they talk about Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and we celebrate Columbus Day, this is what we're celebrating. Then, we talked about before how they had the dogs who come in and eat through the stomach and impale. This is what they brought to this Western Hemisphere. But I want to show you this clip, because I want you to understand, and this is very important for us to hear. They tell the story as if the red man and red woman just couldn't fight and they just got exterminated. It's a lie. On more than one occasion, I'm going to just show you a quick clip of one. They had the white boys right at the brink of destruction. I mean, they were at the point that they could defeat the whites and kill all the ones, and the rest of them that got away could never come back. They were this close to victory. However, this was their problem. And this is the problem with black people too, and other people around this planet. We have this idea that somehow the issues we have with white folks are some kind of misunderstanding. And if we just can work it out, even if we got to fight, that they have some other interest other than killing us. So, because they had never dealt with a barbaric demon before, because they did not know what a European devil was, I'm going to let you watch for yourself. How could they take an army that had completely defeated them in battle? I mean, they had defeated the whites. The whites were done militarily. They went out on the battlefield and kicked the white boys behind, was ready to put them out of the country. But yet, they got exterminated. Let's see how that happened.
You British and the French are like the two edges of a pair of shears. We are the cloth which is cut to pieces between them. Odawa.
By the mid-1700s, the Indian nations of the eastern interior were surrounded by European powers. Spain controlled Florida. The English were pressing in from their colonies in the east, and the French were aggressively moving across the Great Lakes and along the Mississippi River. One Odawa man, who had fought alongside the French, then watched them retreat, refused to abandon the struggle. His name was Pontiac. While many leaders saw the English as a threat to their nations, Pontiac saw the English as a threat to all Indian people. Nations had to put aside the past and unite in common purpose. Pontiac's vision would change the thinking of Indian leaders for generations.
It is important for us, my brothers, that we exterminate from our land this nation which only seeks to kill us. There is no more time to lose. And when the English shall be defeated, we shall cut off the passage so they cannot come back to our country. Pontiac, Ottawa.
Fighting men from the Anishinaabe, Miami, Seneca, Lenape, Shawnee, and other nations responded to his call. In May of 1763, Pontiac's rebellion erupted the siege of Fort Detroit. Over the next 2 months, 9 of the 11 English forts in the region fell. Only Detroit and Fort Pitt remained in British hands, both under siege by Pontiac's alliance. Pontiac stood on the verge of total victory. The British Army, freed from campaigns against the French, launched massive expeditions against the Indian forces. But Pontiac's alliance held their ground. Increasingly desperate to prevail, British commander Geoffrey Amherst put a bounty on Pontiac's head, then proposed a sinister tactic: germ warfare.
Could it not be contrived to send the smallpox among those disaffected tribes of Indians? We must, on this occasion, use every stratagem in our power to reduce them. You will do well to try to inoculate the Indians by means of blankets, to try to extirpate this execrable race.
Shawnee, Lenape, and Odawa were crippled by smallpox-infested blankets from Fort Pitt.
Pretty soon burst out a terrible sickness among us. Lodge after lodge was totally vacated. Nothing but the dead bodies lying here and there in their lodges. Entire families being swept off with the ravages of this terrible disease.
That was then. This 2007.
A doctor and 5 nurses facing death in Libya, convicted of infecting hundreds of children with the AIDS virus. Today, a pivotal meeting. CNN's Relitza Vasilova reports.
The Libyan Supreme Judicial Council could reduce or even overturn the death sentences of 6 foreign medics. It's the closest the 5 Bulgarian nurses and Palestinian doctor have come to being released.
We're very hopeful that that will be the case, Relitza. We know that the Higher Judicial Council now will make a ruling on the death sentence, which was re-upheld by the Libyan Supreme Court last week.
First convicted 3 years ago of an unspeakable crime, if true. 5 Bulgarian nurses and a Palestinian doctor found guilty of deliberately infecting more than 400 Libyan children under their care with the virus that causes AIDS. 50 children have died. Libyan prosecutors claim they infected the children as an experiment.
So, I play this for a very important reason. When we talking genocide, it's not coming one way. If you look in just one direction at this European killing you, you're gonna get destroyed. Not because you can't beat them physically. It doesn't have nothing to do with that. It has to do with his only objective. I'm talking about all of them. They all play different roles. Some of them role is to get you to think that they cool. So they do really nice stuff. But I want you to understand, there was no cracker, magic cracker, that came to save this race of people. There was no good cracker. There's some good crackers. There's not one good cracker that saved that race of people that inhabited the entire Western Hemisphere that you've never seen a full-blooded one of. So this idea of this magical good peckerwood that's going to come and save black people or help black people is a myth. And it's the black person who believes in the good cracker that always destroys black unification. Because as soon as we get something strong in black, some happy-go-lucky, smiley-faced, lost Negro come, I's got a good white friend that can help us. They helped us enough in slavery. Leave them out. They invite the devil in. The devil gets the logistics of everything we do. Okay, that's the leader. This is the person. They got a little disagreement here. This is what goes on. And the crack goes back smiling and grinning, working harder than everybody, and tanks your whole organization. Destroys everything. And now you ain't got no black organizations that strong. A bunch of weak folks in there, because you done ran off all the strong people. The minute they saw the crack come in the door, they out. All the strong black people, they might not be the best administrators, but they the strong ones. As soon as they see the cracker come in the door, they out. And you watch the black organizations and events that you have around the city, any city in this country, always some black person in African clothing. In African clothing, talking about black power. I ain't talking about my Panther brothers and sisters here. I know I don't think I'm gonna see that here. But I'm telling you, come in marching with some crackers. We were talking about the brothers from the Uhuru movement and what they're doing. I know that they've done a lot of good work. People say that. But now, they inviting all this stuff in. How you gonna keep strong soldiers in there? How you gonna keep strong black women in a black organization when you got white females there and the brothers trying to talk to the white female right in front of their face? Come on, y'all. So we see what they did then. But I want to show you one more clip because I want people to understand when we're talking genocide, it is not just the physical people. If you're looking for physical dead black people, we got plenty of them. But you got to look beyond that to understand genocide. It said mental harm. I don't know if you know this, but the Native Americans have the highest alcoholism rate on planet Earth, the few that are left on the reservation, and the highest sexual abuse rate on planet Earth. Nobody has a larger percentage of their children sexually abused than the Native Americans. Nobody has a larger number of their people who are addicted and dying from alcoholism than the Native Americans. So even the ones that are physically here have been stripped of their mind, their culture, and their personality. Remind you of anybody? Yes. I want you to watch this clip because it really should strike a chord with any African that knows about our history and our culture and what is happening to our people today.
Many Eastern reformers were determined to break the Indian ring, but they believed that the only lasting solution was change, not only for the bureaucrats, but for the Indian people themselves. Indian ways were judged as backward and wrong, that for their own good, their cultures had to be erased. Indian people were to be remade in their reformers' image.
The Indians' only safe future can be found in merging their interests with ours and becoming part of the people of the United States. Their safe course is to quit being tribal Indians, to go out and live among us as individual men, to adopt our language, our industries, and become a part of the power. Richard Pratt, Director, Carlisle Indian School.
But of all the government policies designed to end Indian cultures, the cruelest was yet to come. Indian people would be robbed of even their children. Across the country, Indian children, some as young as 4 years old, were taken from their parents, often by force, and sent to boarding schools. At the boarding schools, children were stripped of all outward appearances linking them to their Indian past.
Our belongings were taken from us. Even the little medicine bags our mothers had given us to protect us from harm. Everything was placed in a heap and set afire. Next was the long hair, the pride of all the Indians. The boys, one by one, would break down and cry when they saw the braids thrown on the floor. Lone Wolf, Blackfeet.
Children were forbidden to speak of their traditions and severely punished if they used their native languages. Fed distorted images of evil Indians, many came to doubt their own identity.
I remember growing up that I never really felt good about myself. We were taught to be ashamed of who we were and who we are. And it hurts when you're young and you're trying to understand.
We all wore white man's clothes and ate white man's food and went to white man's churches and spoke white man's talk. And so after a while, we also began to say Indians were bad. We laughed at our own people and their blankets and cooking pots and sacred societies and dances. Sun Elk, Taos.
If we thought the days were bad, the nights were much worse. This was the time when real loneliness set in. Many boys ran away, but most of them were caught and brought back by the police. We were told never to talk Indian, and if we were caught, we got a strapping with a leather belt. I remember one evening when we were all lined up in a room, and one of the boys said something Indian to another boy. The man in charge caught him by the shirt and threw him across the room. Later we found out his collarbone was broken.
The priest would take a leather harness strap and he would beat my husband. And every time that strap would come down on him, how he would repeat to himself, "I'll never forget my language." He was thinking that, "I will never forget my language."
These things that made life for us the most important thing, these were the things that took away from us. And today, so many of our Indian children have forgotten their language, even here on our reservation, because they took that language away from us, our language that God gave us.
Now I showed that, and I'm hoping, when I first saw this, I was a teenager, maybe a little bit older. And when I was listening to the story, I wasn't hearing what happened to the Native Americans. Even though I felt bad at what they did to them, I was able to begin to start formulating a vision of, whoa, that's an all too familiar story. People that don't know their language, don't know their history, don't know their own customs and culture. I said, okay. So then I had to ask the question, okay, well, why didn't they kill us and they killed them? And at first, the ego is a crazy thing. You let that ego get in your way sometimes, you'll fool yourself and do a lot of damage. Because see, we're stronger than them, they couldn't get rid of us. When they came to this country, they decided they wanted it and they were going to exterminate the people that were here. They went and got us because they was exterminating them. So the reason they went to get us in Africa was to come do the work for them here and use our people resources. Well, you can't take our people resources and kill us at the same time. Not in our entirety. That's why, then they went back into Africa doing colonialism. Why didn't they exterminate it? Because they needed us to get the stuff out of the ground for them. They didn't have the machines and all the stuff they got now. Why hadn't they killed us like they did the Native Americans? Real simple. Because they didn't want the same thing from us at that time. Which means we gotta realize when our time that they no longer need anything from us comes up, then we gotta look at what they done to the Native Americans and realize, okay, it's crunch time now. We're not gonna get away with getting enslaved again and then getting out and fighting, but that ain't gonna happen again. Because they don't have the same needs no more. Now they want us dead because they can replace us. Now they say we can go to Africa. Instead of stealing the resource, why don't we just move to Africa? They got the cure for malaria now. They couldn't move into Central Africa before. With all the vegetation in the world. But now you go to Central Africa, man, you drop a seed, and by accident something gonna grow. I mean, it's so fertile, it's like you ain't never seen nothing like it. You go to places in Ethiopia and Ghana, and you see some of the fertility, and you like, it's so green, you ain't never seen that much green. So now, like the Native Americans, who was sitting there with all the wealth of the world, but didn't have the mentality to know that they were dealing with a demon, that you better kill them before they kill you. And they could have won, but they didn't know what they were dealing with. We're the first race of people, the first group of people in the face in the history of this world who have a precedent to look at in history of other groups getting exterminated. How it happened, they can study it and avoid it. I'm going to say it again. Every other race in the history of the world had to deal with a situation that they had no precedent of. They never seen it before, didn't know what was coming. We the first race of people that can look and say, this is what the whites do, and this is how they do it. And this is where we are on the pecking chain. And we can look at what worked yesterday and what didn't work, and we can actually avoid being wiped out. Nobody else got that chance. They all gone. Our Tasmanian sisters and brothers, dead. The red man, dead. Groups of Asians, dead. Whole groups in Africa that we'll never know existed, dead. Anywhere they've gone and wanted to get rid of somebody, they dead. They don't have no chance. We're the first race of people that can heed a word and a message and stop trying to love everybody and love ourselves and look at our enemy for what they are and prepare a battle strategy to survive on planet Earth. Everybody else is wiped out. It's a book. I think everybody should get this book. This is the premier scholar of the 21st century, Baba Malima Baruti. Can we show him some love and give him a round of applause for his work? Go to AKobenHouse.com, AKOBENHOUSE.com. You can get a lot of his work. What we're going to talk about now, we talked about what they did to the Native Americans. That was a physical genocide and a cultural and everything, but ultimately they gone. In terms of relevance, there's no Native American army. It don't exist. They're dead. Right here, we're going to look at what they did to us in the first stage of this genocide that we face. They weren't trying to kill us physically here. They were disestablishing our families. They were stripping us from our history and culture, taking us from the gods and the goddesses we believed in, taking us away from respecting each other, taking us away from our language, our culture. We were mathematicians, we were scientists, we were agriculturalists. Don't let them tell you they took savages. Savages couldn't build a nation like America. They took the best architects in the world and enslaved them and brought them over here. These were our ancestors. They took the best farmers in the world who knew irrigation better than anybody. Most of the crops they sold in the South, they don't tell you. Most of them, the crackers, didn't even know about those crops. They wasn't selling it. We brought that knowledge with us. So they took us from organized societies, working functional groups. They stripped the men from the women. They stripped everybody from their families. They separated us based on the fact we spoke different languages. And then they prepared us for a journey. We didn't know where we were going. And they put us on these ships. And when we would get on the ship a lot of times, the first thing we would see is the head of one of the great soldiers in the region, because they wanted us to lose all hope and feel like there was no hope. And then they would have a white boy with his cross. He said, I'm a representative of God. And you were on God's ship. The first ship that came to get us was called the Good Ship Jesus. He said, and you are now under the watchful eye of your new God, Jesus. And you're no longer God. You're no longer Wolof. You're no longer Zulu. You're no longer Bantu. You're no longer Fulani. I have a new identity for you. And as the white representative of Jesus, your new God, I'm telling you what your new identity is. Your new name is nigger. That's who you are. That's who your women are. That's who your children are. That's who you will be from this day forward. And a nigger is someone that has no value. No value. You will do as I tell you to do. What I tell you to do. When I tell you to do. Because you are my nigger. But many of our people wouldn't accept that. Because we knew who we were. We had thousands of years of history of our grandfathers and grandmothers that gave us our story. We knew we built pyramids. We built great civilizations. We built temples. We built math and science. We knew who we were. But they said we're going to take all that is inside out of you and force you to accept a new identity. So then, not only can we abuse you, we can get you to abuse each other. Because before we can make you our slave to do our will, we got to break you and your psychology. So they would rape and torture everybody on the ship, the women, the children, the men, everybody. Then they would throw so many of our ancestors overboard that the Atlantic shark actually stopped hunting for food in the ocean. That's what I'm saying. They stopped hunting for food. They would wait for the slave ships, and they would follow the slave ships. They started a new migration pattern to this very day. The Atlantic shark still follows that migration pattern because they got so used to eating from these ships that to this day when they have babies, they just go along that same pattern, waiting for those ships to come back. And one by one, they would eat our ancestors. Some of our ancestors were rebellious and said, before I would go into this reality, I'll jump over and take my own life. I would not be anybody's tool. It was revolutionary. I'll jump over and die before I do that. Some brothers refusing to accept the new identity. And the cracker would say, what's your name, boy? He said, I'm a god, I'm a prince. No, you're a nigga. That's your name. Your name is nigga. He said, no. You'll never get me to accept that reality. And no matter what, some of our ancestors refused to adopt a new identity. They would rip the skin off of our backs just to force us to accept an idea that would then allow them to do whatever they wanted to do to our people. And we were rebellious fighting people. We never said okay. We never gave up. We never gave in and told nobody that me, as a prince or a man who had a family and a history from Nigeria or Ghana or wherever, that I was some nigga. Something you made up. We knew that we had value. We never accepted it holistically. But it was a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain involved in what we've been through in order to get them, get us to this point. And when we would try to say, I'd rather die than go there, they say, no, they would take hammers and bang our teeth out and shove muzzles in our mouth because they physically needed us alive. Yeah, they were killing the spirit and the mentals and the psychology of our personality. But they physically needed us alive. And I want y'all to look at this because if our ancestors had to go through it, we don't want to see it, but they had to go through it. Can't we at least see what they went through to understand how we got where we are right now here today? When we were very rebellious, sometimes they just could not stop us from fighting. And it got to the point where they said they're going to take over this ship. So we got to do something drastic. They would weight us down with rocks and tie us together. And one by one, we would sink into the abyss of the ocean. And if the sharks were too hungry to tear us up, soon as we hit them, the sharks were waiting for us. But if they had feasted so much they wasn't hungry no more, then we would just descend one by one into the abyss of the Atlantic Ocean. This ain't no make-believe story. But this was only the first leg of the trip. 3 months. That ain't it though. They just get you prepared because now the feminization of the black male, the destruction of the black male force is in full effect because now you don't even have the control over your own body, much less to protect your women and children. So now like we shine up our Cadillacs, we were the first thing on the auction block getting nice and shiny so these white devils could come and purchase us, to take us back to their plantations, to work us from sun up to sundown until we died, if we were lucky. See, we know that they would take us into enslavement on the plantations of America, to pick the cotton fields and the sugar cane. But what we don't talk about is what they did to us sexually. The real making of the real effeminization of the black male spirit and destruction of the black male character came on these sex farms, where they would take the black male who've been totally reduced to not a man who would defend his women and children anymore, but now he was the salesman of the sexual exploitation of his own women. And he would have to take these sisters as if they were products to be sold, and take the rich white males that come to the sex farm. Let me show you our merchandise. You want to take her in the back and try her out? Go on. You can take her home with you. He said, what about that one? Oh, well, she's a little more expensive, you know. She's never been touched before. She's a virgin, never as much as kissed. I don't know if you have enough money for that. And the black male, instead of being a man who would die or kill to protect his women and children, now becomes less than a male, less than a man. His entire character stripped and destroyed, as he's no longer a responsible steward of his race. He's now a salesman of the sexual exploitation of his women. But if you know anything about the Europeans, they will rape and brutalize grown women, but that's not their real preference. They have a very sick, rich, unrich history of exploiting children. So they had rooms where they had our little daughters. And the black male in there would be paid well. He would have a nice top hat. He would have a nice suit. He would be dressed real well. And he was looked at as somebody that everybody would want to be like, all the other brothers, because his job was to train the young girls, 5 to 14, the little young girls. So the European could come and take a little girl. They were much more expensive than the grown women. He would train them to gyrate and dance and bounce around. Yes, the black male was stripped from manhood and turned into the salesman of the sexual exploit of our own daughters. Now I know it's hard for us to imagine that we would actually be so reduced in our manhood that we would actually celebrate and think that we were big men and that we were profiting from the sexual exploitation and the destruction of our own women. But if you know anything about slavery, way back then, it did happen. And we would take our own daughters during slavery and have them gyrating as sexual exploit, as sexual objects for the world. Black males would actually think that they were cool and enjoy their job of being no longer a man, but a male who profited from sexually exploiting his own women. Slavery. I know it was a long time ago. It's hard for us to remember or imagine what that would have been like. With black males teaching our daughters to be sexual toilets for the world.
Wow.
Where it got to the point where even eventually the girls would grow up and then they would be used to train their daughters to be sexual toilets for the world during slavery. Ain't you glad that slavery is over? But remember, the European is a sexual demon. And what he wanted most was the little boys. Most expensive thing on the sex farm. So they would dress our sons up and liquor them up and put them in perfume and dresses. Put lipstick on them. And these homosexualized, sexual European demons would come and turn our sons into their daughters. They had to have money to do that. And they would have the white male faggot training these black children, these black boys, in sexual acts so that these homosexual white males could take these children back to the privacy of their own homes and do with them as they will. Forcefully taking the children of another race.
That's right. Genocide.
During slavery. During genocide. See, if we don't understand what our enslavement was about, and what the objectives of that enslavement were, then we have no idea whether or not it's over. We're looking at it as a period in time. Time ain't changed for crackers, they still crackers. The time changes us. We keep getting confused. See, it ain't the crackers that are changing. They just doing more of what they've always done.
That's right.
It's us that knew then that they was our enemies and that we had to fight them or we would be destroyed. It was us that knew then that they called us niggas. We called them crackers. When they caught us out on it by ourselves, they would kill us. When we caught them out by themselves, we would kill them.
That's right.
We wasn't trying to be their friends.
You need to get back there.
We ain't the ones that's supposed to be changing. They're the demons, we supposed to be changing them.
That's right.
But instead, they're remaining in their demonic selves, and we change and accepting it and stop fighting it. We don't resist nothing that the cracker's giving us no more. We embrace the N-word, every other word. You count any black man in any urban city in this country. Count how many times in a day he says the N-word. Count how many times a day he says cracker. The N-word will beat the word cracker every single time because he has accepted his fate in hating himself and his brothers and his sisters and has forgotten to hate his bitter enemy, the white race. But these crackers have not forgotten who they hate. They're not the ones that have changed. We are the ones that have changed. We used to resist. We don't resist anymore. And since we constantly going into our churches, in our political infrastructures, into the classrooms, and being given these images of these good dual peckerwood crackers, and we lay our guard down, now our daughters don't even want to marry our sons. Our sons think that the most beautiful woman, forget woman, the most beautiful thing that exists on planet Earth is the black woman. As black as she can be, black as 150 million midnight, black and beautiful. And he's trained. And we allow our children to be trained to believe that black is ugly. You look at the behavior of this European demon, ain't nothing uglier than that. So how does black get associated with ugly, except that we stop fighting? Brother Garvey came, he told us what? Put down them white dogs and that white God. Put up black images. If God, who made the sun and the earth to revolve around the sun, and the sun gives the earth life, and they can't stand the sun, obviously they ain't got nothing to do with God. They go out in God's sun and burn half to death.
That's right.
We go out and just eat it up.
That's right.
Like snacks. You see, brothers, walk out in there just saying, oh, we feel good. Look, you know when it get cold, black people are hard to say here for me. Man, that sun start coming out. It's time to go. God gave us this planet.
That's right.
And we surrendered it.
That's right.
We asked foolish questions. How did God let the God ain't had nothing to do with this? God ain't told us no crackers was good. We keep lying to our children and telling them that. God ain't tell us that we should bend over to nobody else's will. We keep bending over. God ain't tell us the black man shouldn't be with the black woman. We created civilization. Look what happened when we did it. It worked. We keep lying to our children, telling them you don't want a black woman. God ain't tell the black woman not to be with the black man's side. If she stood with us through slavery,
that's right.
We let this happen to our women and they still with us, do that. Ain't no time she should abandon us. We lost to these crackers. And that loss allowed them to do unthinkable things to our women. And instead of being men and saying, well, they got to pay for it, so let's get organized. We can, how you doing, Mr. Charlie? You go to your job, do whatever you got to do. And when you leave, you ain't got to tell them, I'm going to kill you one day. And if I don't get my paycheck on time, I'll be something later. You know what I'm saying? You smile at him in the day, but at night, he got to pay for this. He's got to pay for it. It ain't a question. It's not an option. It's nothing to discuss for real men. but there ain't no real men left. It's only a few. There ain't no warlords talking to you like this. There's not. I'm just keeping it real. This is real talk here. I ain't talking to you about no spaceships. I ain't arguing with you about what the name of God is. I'm saying get off your goddamn behind and fight. Stop lying to your children. Get out of this homosexuality. Get out of this pedophilia. Let's go out here, clean up our streets. People are hurting our people. We gotta hurt people. People don't get out of this situation we're in without hurting people.
That's right.
That's part of the whole glory of it, being a man. Somebody done you wrong, you get to hurt them. You just gotta do it wisely. You gotta plot it out right. You gotta win. You don't want to hurt nobody and lose.
That's right.
You want to win.
That's right.
We don't want to win no more. We look at all they've done to us, and then you ask yourself, your leaders come out when things happen, and they don't remind you who you're dealing with. They tell you to hold hands with the same devils, uncles and nieces that murder your children in the street. And then we let them walk home amongst us smiling while they go get their paycheck and we stay broke.
That's insanity.
Any leader that tells you to love crackers that shoot your children in the street, you should demand that they bring their children forth and let the cracker firing squad their children. Show me, don't tell me nothing. When this fool kill black children, bring your black children out. Or your mulatto children, because a lot of them are race traders running around with these crackers. Bring your little children out and let that same cracker blow your child's brains out.
Talk to my Jew.
And let them pay me to bring your child out. And then maybe I'll listen to you turn the other cheek. Right. I ain't seen none of them, not even Martin Luther King. There you go. All that walking in front of dogs and bow, I ain't never see him take his children out there.
That's right.
Where were your children? Where were your children? If it's so cool to walk in front of dogs, begging white folks to be merciful, then why would you take your family out there? Show me, Slim. If you real, show me. I'm telling you right now, I bring my 3-year-old daughter up here right now. I said, who's the great prophet? She'll say, Nat Turner.
That's right.
Who's the great general? John Jacques Dessalines. What did he do? Kill the devils, the white devils. I point to any cracker. Who is that? White devil. I know it sounds good, but sometimes it can be a little hard. You know, we go out to a restaurant, I'm relaxing, I'm forgetting. She's 3 years old. Daddy, the white devil, why you feeding us? I tell you what, you know, children are something special, man. When you teach them, they more honest than us. My wife told me this story, and I didn't know what to say. All of the women in our family got natural hair that she sees, for the most part, except her grandmother, but for the most part. So, and I don't want anybody to take this offensively. I'm just telling you, it's my daughter. She in the store with her mother, and a sister walks by that has a pressed head, and a wig, I guess, straight hair. She don't know, she not used to seeing that. So she all loud, Mommy, why she got that silly hair? I'm like, I said, you know what? On the one hand, it feels disrespectful, but you know what? I want her to love herself so much that at this stage, even though sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, when she look at something that ain't a natural black woman head, she like, that don't look right. What is that?
And she should.
Because she has learned to love herself. And if my 3-year-old knows that, why don't we? Let's talk about it. Y'all all right? Yeah. Is this valuable discussion? Yeah. All right, talk. Necessary. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about a physical destruction in whole or in part. Don't forget what happened to us on that slave ship, because I want you to understand. The crack ain't changed, we changed. He changes his methodologies. But if you know what we went through and the psychology of it, not the physical things, but the psychology of it, you can see when he's doing them again. So let's talk about the 1980s. I'm sorry, I'm gonna play this because I want people to understand and hear this for a second. We went in Africa, we were doing great, they came and enslaved us. In the mid-1980s, we were starting to develop consciousness. We were dressed in a certain way. The young people were starting to organize and say, you know what? We got to stop killing each other. These white folk trying to get us to hurt each other. Let's come together and not self-destruct and stand together with each other. I want you to get this. I want you to travel back in time and play the whole video. Just so you can see the vibe and the rhythm. I want you to notice we ain't called ourselves out of our name one time. We wasn't walking around trying to look like whores or dudes with our pants hanging off, trying to be fake thugs. We were trying to be men, building and establishing things, giving a message to our young people that they can stand up and be strong. Can we go back to 1980s? Sure. Let's go back. Let's go self-destruction and all of the hip-hop artists. The biggest ones in the hip-hop world got together and said, let's give some positive food for our people.
We all agree tonight, all of us,
started off in North
America has a very serious problem. Not only does America have a very serious problem, but our people have a very serious problem. America's problem is self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction.
Well, today's topic, self-destruction, it really ain't the rap audience that's bugging. It's one or two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. You get caught in the mid. So to crush that stereotype, here's what we did. We got ourselves together so that you can unite and fight for what's right. Not negative cause. The way we live is positive. We don't kill our relatives.
Pop, 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 when it's shot, who's to blame? Headline, front page, and rap's the name. MC tonight here to state the bottom line. The black on black crime was way before our time.
Trigger broke life with a knife at the fight. Cried cause he died of trifling death when he left his very last breath. Was I slept, so watch your step. Back in the 60s, our brothers and sisters were hanged. How could you gangbang? I never ever ran from the Ku Klux Klan, and I shouldn't have to run from a black man, cause that's self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction.
Dos, tres, cuatro.
Funky fresh dressed to impress, ready to party. Money in your pocket, dying to move your body. To get inside, you pay the whole $10. Scotch tape with a razor blade, taped to your collar. Leave the guns in the crack and the knobs alone. MC lights on the microphone, bum rushing and pushing, snatching and taxing. I cram understand why brothers don't be maxing. There's only one disco, they'll close one more. You ain't guarding the door, so what you got a gun for? Do you rob the rich and give to the poor? Yo, daddy, yo. Who is the more good straight from the mouth? And daddy, yo, do a crime, end up in jail and gotta go. Cause you could do crime and get paid today, and tomorrow you're behind bars in the worst way. Far from your family, cause you're locked away. Now tell me, do you really think crime pays? Even on taking what your brother had?
You little sucker.
You talking all that jazz.
It's time to stand together in a unity. Cause if not, then we're soon to be self-destroyed, unemployed. The rat race will be lost without a trace or a clue. But what to do is stop the violence and kick the science down the road that we call eternity, where knowledge is formed and you learn to be self-sufficient, independent. To teach the each is what rap intended, but society wants to invade. So do not walk this path that they laid. It's self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. D-Night, break it down like this.
Children growing, women producing, men go working, some do stealing.
Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction.
I'm Miss Melody and I'm a born again rebel. The bomb says that must cease and settle. If we wanna develop and grow to another level, we can't be guinea pigs for the devil. The enemy knows they're no fools because everyone knows the hip hop rules. So we gotta get it and grab what's wrong. The opposition is weak and rap is strong.
This is all about, no doubt, to stop violence. But first, let's have a moment of silence. Swing. It's been stated, re-educated, evaluated. Thoughts of the past have faded. The only thing left is the memories of our related. And I hate it when someone dies and get all hurt up for a silly gold chain by chump.
Word up.
It doesn't make you a big man, and Juwan ain't going to your brother, man. And you don't know that's part of the plan. Why? Cause rap music is in full demand, understand? Self-destruction.
My name is Just Ice, a man, not a prankster. I was known as the gangster, but believe me, that is no fun. The time is now to unite everyone. You don't have to be soft to be for peace. Robbing and killing and murdering is the least. You don't have to be chained by the beast. But party people, it's time I release. Hey yo, here's the situation. Idiocy, nonsense, violence. Not a good policy, therefore we must ignore fighting, fussing. Heaven's at the door, so there'll be no bum rushing. Let's get together because we're falling apart. I heard a brother shot another, it broke my heart. I don't understand the difficulty, people. Love your brother, treat him as an equal. They call us animals, I don't agree with them. I'll prove it wrong, but right is what you're proving them. Take keys before I leave to what I'm saying, or we'll all be on our knees praying.
Heavy D, deep in the heart of the matter. The self-destruction is served on a platter, making a day, not failing to anticipate. They got greedy, so they fell for the bait. That makes them a victim, pick them, pluck new jack in jail, which is the best ever done. There's no one around, cause in jail you're a number. They never took the time to wonder about self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction.
Yes, we urge to merge, we live for the love of our people, the hope they get along. Getting a point to our brothers and sisters who don't know the time.
So we gonna ride.
Instead in your head, you know our job to build and collect ourselves with intellect. To evolve to self-respect. Cause we got to keep ourselves in check, or else it's self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction.
All right.
Yeah.
And you had Just Ice, who was always hardcore. They all came together. So now, why did I show this? Very important. We're going to see it again, but it has to be a conscious decision, because this was the reality. They saw this in that condition, with that getting pumped in the mind. Now understand, that wasn't all we was getting. We getting that. Then on the other side, we getting Public Enemy talking about fight the power. Elvis was a hero the most, but he never meant to me. Straight up racist. The sucker was simple and plain. MFM and John Wayne. So we was out there with black medallions on our chest. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I'm not saying I personally participated, but I'm saying a lot of white boys got jaws broke just behind listening to the music we used to listen to. Ice Cube was coming out, Death Certificate, and it was just like, yo, man, let's go do something. Let's go whoop some white boys. It is what it is, you know, because the music was telling us, don't fight your brother, but it wasn't telling us not to fight. See, it wasn't making us punks. It just, when we talking about each other, like, let's keep the peace. But then the music was getting real hostile towards police brutality. What's the saying when you buck a devil down? Yeah. So we was getting real, we listening to this and we getting fueled with racial perspective and self-respect and hatred for our white enemies. And now brothers just sit around and talk about and start organizing. So they said, we've got to re-enslave them. But if we come right out and come at them directly right now, they had to deal with the black man one-on-one, face-to-face. They've never won a war with aggressive black males that wanted to fight with them. Every war that they've won against organized black people, they've won by turning us against each other. Even Hannibal the Carthage. They had to get his allies to be Mobutus and race traitors and turn on Hannibal in order to win. They never beat us because they're not the fighters that we are. They're not the warriors that we are, but they demons. They're dangerous nevertheless. In this condition, they said, we've got to kill these people and re-enslave them. How do we do it? So let's look. First, we got to take away the self-respect. And they figured something out. We're talking genocide. This is after slavery, after Jim Crow. They ain't talking about a couple hundred years ago. We're talking about 1985. They said, okay, we constantly focus on destroying black men, which is the physical threat. But the backbone of the black race, they finally figured it out. That black woman. No matter how badly we beat these men down, every 30 years or so, 20, 30 years, she produces another generation that wants to come fight. They said, what would happen if we remove her from the equation? So they created a drug. And just to let you know who did it, they called it crack. One who cracks is a cracker. And they wanted to crack the foundation of the black community, the backbone, which is the black woman, who no matter what foolishness our fathers and grandfathers was all doing, our mama was right there cooking and finding a way to make a way for us. They said, no more. So they created a drug more addictive than any drug substance that has ever been created. That they studied our DNA and that attaches itself to our DNA in a way that makes it more addictive for us than others. And they said, you're going to re-enslave it. We make the drug. And since we're preventing black men from getting employment, and they struggling and they don't want to come work for us, we'll make it cheap and inexpensive. And we'll flood the inner cities with it. And we'll let these strong, masculine brothers, who, if we don't do something, are going to be listening to this fight to power, and eventually they're going to be at our doorstep kicking it in, wanting justice. Let's take that male aggression and put some money in their pockets. But in order to get that money, they're going to have to take these weapons we're going to give them. Don't give them weapons. Don't worry about it. We got this under control. We're going to give them weapons, but they ain't going to use it to shoot us. I'm the imaginary cracker talking. I ain't no cracker, so don't be looking at me like no cracker. I see some of y'all looking at me, I ain't no cracker. I'm in the worst person. He said the third, but I'm in the worst person. I'm talking as if I'm the cracker, and I ain't no cracker. So we gonna give him the guns and the crack, and he ain't gonna have to know how to be a salesman. He not gonna have to learn those skills. He don't have to do nothing. He can be a nobody, nothing do. He don't have to do nothing. All he got to do is give it to her one time. She's hooked. And it'll sell itself, sir. But then we give him a gun and tell him, don't let them down there get in on your turf. And look, give you a gun too. You don't let him down there get in on your turf. And we got all the weapons we need, all the aggression we need, and we end up murdering the heck out of each other. And while we murdering each other physically, we giving dope and crack to our women and destroying them. And our women are now, instead of being there taking care of their children, marching around in the middle of the streets and back alleys with their children in the house taking care of themselves, sometimes even selling their children so they can get a quick hit at a pipe. And black males who's supposed to be fighting white supremacy, and white supremacists are the implements and tools to do it. And then we make plenty of money, but get caught, they give you 100 times sentence if you're selling powder cocaine, which the white said. So they make it ultra criminal for you to participate in the enterprise that they created and gave you in the first place. It's ultra criminal. It's not just the same criminal as doing other crimes. For you doing the crime that they created for you to do that you could not have committed if they didn't create the product for you to have in the first place. You get ultra criminal charges and your life taken away from you. Where you get incarcerated in a place where there are no women, where you can't produce no more children. That's called genocide. And so of course, we constantly see funerals, and then we saw the young brothers and sisters saying, this thing is terrible. But they ran into a little issue, but no problem, Mr. Crockett. He's got a plan to re-enslave us. All right. We took away the self-esteem from the women by giving them the dope. We got the men turning their energy on each other, destroying each other. But the young people now don't want to do it because they see how devastating the crack was in their community. We got to get them too. All right, how we going to do it? 1991, George Bush Sr. had a meeting with Eric Wright, Easy E. How many people in here remember that? He met with him. That's right, you see the hands. Thank you. This is what they discussed. He said, listen, this music you got, we'll make a deal with you. You can get as rich as you want. We want every message that comes out of it to be used drugs, kill black people, and exploiting women. And if you do that, we'll give you a platform to have as much exposure as you possibly want. Eazy-E, being the dude he was, and the race trader that he was, like, I'm on board. You remember, well, it's the thuggish rugged bone. Our people wasn't doing, what was the drug that they came out they was doing? Ecstasy. Our people wasn't doing that kind of, we smoked some marijuana, the crack got us, that was it. No, all of a sudden the drugs started just coming in. They had a meeting in 1991. So, now they're turning up the whole enslavement, because now, it's one thing to get brothers out there selling dope, but a lot of our people said, I'm not doing that. I see where that leads. My brother in prison for the rest of his life. People got killed. I ain't with it. So, look, no problem. You need money to get away from all this crack and dope and all this terrible environment. No problem. We'll give you the money. But I ain't selling no drugs. You ain't got to sell no drugs. Do. I'm going to hook you up with this white so-called Jew, the small hat. He going to give you this. It's called a microphone. And all you got to do is give a message about making fast money by selling dope, shooting and killing black folks. But you ain't got to kill nobody. You ain't got to shoot nobody. You ain't got to sell drugs. You just sing it and make it sound good. And how you pimp hoes and your women are no value. All you got to do is put this message out there. We will make you richer than you can possibly imagine. So, young brother saying, well, hey, it's only one catch though. If you ever decide you want to get out, they're going to lock you up. But you don't get locked up for doing the music. However, before, they had to get each individual dude to get involved and catch each one of you. Now you got to hold the ball game. Before, he had one dude out there selling the dope. Now, he got a dude who has talent to make it sound good. Now he's affecting the minds of 1,000 children who wouldn't never hit the street ever, and making them think they want to do it. So instead of being able to lock one dude up, now he's affecting 1,000 young people. Now he can lock 1,000 of them up. We say we can make a business out of this. Y'all want to see the business? The business of genocide? How many people have heard of privatized prisons? Yes. The prisons now primarily are privatized. Meaning what? They're a business. The prison is a business. A person buys a business to get return on their investment from the business. They get $40,000, $45,000 now, went up. $45,000 a year for every year somebody is in jail. It's a business. Now, if they use $5,000 on you, they make $40,000 on you each year. If they use $10,000 on you, then they make $35,000. They don't spend a whole lot of money on the prisoners. So they make incredible money. So wait a minute. Let's see how much money we're talking about. All right, they paid Lil Wayne $1 million. Now let's be honest. How many people here would like to make $1 million a year? Raise your hand. All right, that's a lot of money. Let's see how much money the prison business makes when they pay Lil Wayne $1 million a year. It's $40,000 and it's now $45,000. Here's the question. How many people does Lil Wayne have to encourage to go to prison each year for the whites to break even on their $1 million? They make $40,000 every year. How much? But it's just 1 year. Say it again. All right. If 25 black boys commit a crime in this country where they do 1 year, not a life sentence, just 1 year, because they was listening to Lil Wayne, I'm going to split that, then they go and rob somebody and they get caught and they do a year. They make their $1 million back. But let's keep it real. To listen to this music, is it 25 brothers in St. Louis that's doing a year time any given year? All right, so let's say if it was 2,500. Let's just say 2,500 brothers do 1 year. That's $100 million in 1 year. Minus the $1 million they gave Lil Wayne, they made $99 million in 1 year. So, yeah, but how do we know it's genocide? I can show you better than I can tell you. I'm going to show you the news. Vice President Cheney. How many people remember Vice President Cheney? He was the Vice President of the United States, right? Let's see how much money and good business it is for white genocide of black people. It is to promote hip-hop and incarceration of black people.
Well, at this hour, we're learning more about how exactly the Vice President and Senator Eddie Lucio are tied to the Geo Group prison company.
Well, News Channel 5's Becky Medellin has that part of the story. Becky.
Simply put, the accusations against Cheney and Lucio are that they both made money off the Geo Group. Here's how it breaks down. The indictment says the Vice President has $85 million invested in a company called the Vanguard Group. Now, the Vanguard Group has investments in prison companies like the Geo Group. This indictment states the Vice President has a say in how much money the federal government pays those prison companies to house inmates. According to the indictment, that's a conflict of interest because the more money the prison companies make, the more money goes back to investors like Cheney. As for Senator Eddie Lucio Jr., the accusation against him is that he was paid to be a consultant for the prison companies and that he made a profit as a result of his Senate office. In the newsroom, Becky Medellin, News Channel 5 at 6.
How much money did the Vice President have invested in a company that houses black folks? $85 million. That's how much he invested. That ain't how much money he has. If he's investing $85 million in the mass incarceration of black males, what kind of return is the kind of money we probably could buy St. Louis? But I want you to understand, he's only one investor. So, hip-hop, as we know it today, has become a tool for the enslavement, the mass incarceration, and the sophisticated genocide of black people. The more you hear a message calling you an N-word and to kill another brother and to sell dope to do it and to violate sisters, the more rape charges, the more shootings,